Hey there, fans of brotherly love wrestling. It is I, Vic Delicious.
Philly's own, the Mecca here.
It is the real McCoy, J.D.X. Justin D. Xavier. And
it's your man, CD, the fallen angel, Christopher Daniels.
Hello, boys and girls. This is your old friend RJ City.
Hey there, brotherly love wrestling. Bill Carr here.
Hey everyone, this is two-time guest Wheeler Yuta.
Two bozos from Philadelphia flapping their gums about pro wrestling this, pro wrestling that.
Which is not that unique in the grand scheme of things yet.
You are in for a treat because you're tuned in to Brotherly Love Wrestling.
Philadelphia, are you ready?
No! They said, are you ready?
This is Brotherly Love Wrestling Podcast, your first stop for everything professional wrestling. So sit back and enjoy wrestling talk at its finest with your hosts, Larry Hall and Joe Corrado.
Welcome, everybody, to Brotherly Love Wrestling. And on our show this week, we have the Rabid Honey Badger, Ryan Mooney. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I am proud to announce that this podcast is officially part of Honey Badger territory. So
hey.
There you go.
There you go.
We won tonight.
Yeah. So, how deadly is a rabid honey badger? I want to know the danger level of the honey badger.
Well, look, so you have to consider the fact that the honey badger by itself is one of the most dangerous animals in all of the animal kingdom, okay? Because it's ferocious, it never backs down. A honey badger will go after any kind of animal for survival, right? So we're talking about the smallest of animals all the way up to like a lion. I've seen videos of that on YouTube. You can go search it, right? Honey badgers just don't care. Now, add rabies into the mix too, right? Foaming at the mouth, just deranged, wild. So you take something that's already dangerous and you just amplify that by 11, and that's what you get with a rabid honey badger.
All right. So the irony of you being the rabid honey badger and a wild man, I get it. It fits the personality, but your style is so clean and technical, and it's a very sound style. It's not all over the place. I mean, the temperament of yourself all over the place, but your wrestling style in itself very crisp and clean, and looks like it's always well thought out, not wild.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, but there's layers to this, right? So one of the functions of the rabid honey badger persona is, it allows me to just kind of let loose and just go crazy and be wild, the way that you can't in your regular personal life, right? You can't do that at work. You can't do that at home with your family. So inside that wrestling ring, that's your, opportunity, your environment to just kind of go nuts. But it serves a very strategic function as well, in the sense that I put on this persona, I act in these ways to kind of throw them off their game a little bit, right? They're not expecting me to kind of be, that unhinged or that off the chain. And then what they find out is I am very clean. I am very crisp. I am very technically sound. So they're kind of thrown in there, right? Expecting one thing. And then I zig when they think I'm going to zag and give them something completely different. So it's kind of a multi-layered process, and it serves multiple functions.
So what happened to you to make you want to, or that gave you this persona? Like what happened? Like what changed?
Well, I think it's a combination of, something definitely changed, but something was always there, like deep within to begin with. I've been doing the rabid honey badger thing for, almost a couple of calendar years at this point. I've been fine tuning it, trying to figure out like what works, workshopping everything, improving it, making it better, tweaking it. But I think that for me, part of it is just, it's my personality turned up to 11, right? It's that part of that I think exists in all of us, right? We all have that primal animal part of ourselves that still exists, right? Like the part of us that is in our DNA from the time of our ancestors, right? Back in the caveman days, that's still there. right? Even though we're in civilized society now and we all, behave according to all these rules, we're still all animals at our core. So I really like to try and, present that animalistic primal part of humanity that we all have, that I have too. But I remember that a couple of years ago, it was around the time of COVID. And, I was somebody who, I was brought up in this system, trained through the Ring of Honor dojo. At the time, I was on Ring of Honor TV for a hot minute for the 2 years that I was contracted with them. And I was thrown in there without, I think, really knowing who I was or really knowing how to react or how to live in that environment. So around COVID time, when it came time for us all to lock down and kind of spend time at home, I really hit the drawing board and kind of tried to figure out, who am I, right? Like, what do I want to present to the wrestling world? What do I have to contribute, right? Just besides just being this guy, this random person, just not, wrestler number, whatever. So I tried to think about, who inspires me in my life, right? In the wrestling world. Like, I always gravitated towards the guys that were smaller like me, right? These regular sized guys, but they use that to their advantage, right? That smaller stature, right? Like their speed, their evasiveness, their aggressiveness made them a formidable force to any opponent, whether big or small. And to me, I was trying to think of like, what can I make a connection to that is going to present that, right, in a clear manner? I was like thinking to myself, guys that I aspired to be like, they were, connected to animals too, right? Think about like Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Texas rattlesnake, right? Obviously, like, take, not talking about this man's personal life, but just thinking about them as a wrestler. Think about like Chris Benoit, right? Like the rabid Wolverine, that aggressive, tenacious style, and all the other people that I'm leaving out.
Jake the Snake. He was a snake.
Yeah. So all those people together, inspired me, taking pieces from all of those different characters and those personas, those ring styles. I tried to formulate my own thing, right? They always say, something I heard that was really interesting to me a long time ago was, there is no really original idea anymore. It's, you take a piece from here, you take a piece from there, you take a piece from over here, you put it all together, mix it all up, and now you have an original idea. So long story short, that's kind of how I workshopped and came up with what I present now to the wrestling world.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you how hard it was to get an original idea. Like, how hard is it to be creative? But I think your answer pretty much, it makes sense. Like, people love nostalgia. People love to see something that brings them back to a certain point of their life. So seeing like hybrid versions of that, I think people will be drawn more to that, just because it gives them a sense of comfortability, like something they've seen before, just wrapped inside something different.
I agree, because if you think about it too, each and every single one of those things got over the way it did because it worked, right? Like whatever formula was being used, it worked. And a lot of professional wrestling, honestly, is this universal formula that resonates with people across generation, across timelines, right? It's that eternal struggle between good and evil, right? That storytelling that resonates with people who are 5 years old, and it resonates with people who are 95 years old, right? But also, I think too, in trying to make an original idea, to try and come up with something to contribute to the world artistically, there's always a way to tweak something to make it your own, right? And one of the things that all those people that I mentioned that I didn't really see from them was the theatrical component of the character, right? Like when we're talking about the Rabid Wolverine, like what was that? That was a wrestling style. That was an in-ring style. I didn't really see any theatrical character presentation from the Rabid Wolverine, right? Or, some of those other people I mentioned. So I take this animal in-ring style, this animal persona, and I use it as a measure of offense and defense, but I also add some theatrics to it, right? Like the crawling around on all fours, right? Incorporating scratches, incorporating biting into my, in-ring style, into my matches. So that's kind of something that I'm really proud of. Is I feel like that's something where there was like a hole there. And I'm kind of filling that, right? Like that void that existed in all of these other people's game. I'm finding a way to also check that box. And I'm kind of really proud of myself for being able to find that and come up with that.
Yeah, it brings me back, like the biting of people. Like you don't see that anymore. Like I remember that was like very prevalent in like the 80s. Like the and it was like such a dastardly move. Like you bit the guy, but if you were over and you bit him, it was the best thing in the world. It's crazy, but that's that brought me back to a different time period.
Exactly. And I think too, like you perfectly hit the nail on the head. Like a lot of the places that I go, I'm wrestling as, that hero character, that good guy, right? And there are some times where I'm portrayed as the villain, and I'm getting down and dirty and cheating and taking shortcuts. But when I'm presented as this good guy, when I bite people, like it's a measure of survival. I always look at it like that. It's not a measure of cheating. It's a measure of, okay, I'm an animal that is backed up into this corner. I'm fighting this incredibly formidable force, sometimes a lot larger and sometimes a lot more dominant or intimidating than I am. So in order to win, which is the name of the game, I need to be willing to take that extra step that some people aren't going to be able to do, or some people aren't going to be able to force themselves to do, like scratching my opponents, biting them, doing anything and everything I can to try and come away with the victory. And, sometimes, like for some people, that makes them a villain. But a lot of times I've found that people gravitate towards that, and, they kind of identify with that as being something positive, like something that they maybe are inspired by in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, or inspired by it. Something they don't get to see a lot. It's something looks like it like you see it and you're like, oh man, that looks like it really hurts. And that's kind of fun.
Well, if you think about it, I was going to say too, like my final point on that I would say, is if you really think about it, like in real life, if someone came up to you and was just, threatening your livelihood and was attacking you and was trying to bite you and scratch you, would you really, have this sense of righteousness or sitting on your high horse and be like, well, I'm going to fight you, clean and within these parameters, within these rules? No, like you're going to give them back exactly what they're giving to you, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's a measure of survival. And I like to look at professional wrestling, like matches between good and evil, as one, yes, competition, but also a measure of survival, right? We're both trying to come away, right, the victor or the survivor in this match.
It makes Larry and I talk about this all the time. It's simplicity. It's a clear vision, and what one person's supposed to be, and what the other's supposed to be, and you exactly what's going on. And that we said this about Ring of Honor when it came to the pandemic era, when they found they saw it was simple. They weren't trying to pander to a fake imaginary crowd. They went out and they had amazing wrestling matches with a lot of good in-ring storytelling. And when it came to pandemic era wrestling, I watched Ring of Honor more than anything because of that reason. Like it was simplified. They didn't try and do too much.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying, Ryan, no, it's okay. What you're saying and the way you do things, like I feel that there's a lot of wrestling and TV wrestling, especially, to where when you're watching it, and wrestling is the ultimate thing to where you can get lost and you can suspend belief for a little bit and fall into that world. When it gets too, I don't even want to say fake, but maybe too rehearsed or it doesn't look like a fight. Like professional wrestling when we were younger, there was more, I don't want to say violence, but
there's definitely,
depending on who you're talking about, there was more violence, but there was more, it looked more like a fight than a lot of headlocks, a lot of arm bars. You know what I mean?
It was better balanced. It was a good mix of theatrical and it was a good mix of fighting. But like anyone like our era watched the Attitude Era, Stone Cold when he came out and he just beat people up.
Exactly.
But there was like tons of theatrics behind it because it was so freaking over the top.
Yeah. Like, and that's the good mix, is that you want to still kind of feel and be able to suspend belief a little bit that, all right, yeah, these guys are really fighting, but in the same time, you want to see the athletics as well. And I think it's a fine line to walk in a match like that, and to where when you're biting someone or scratching someone, it kind of pulls you in a little bit more. And you get to be like, oh shit, like it's kind of hard to fake biting somebody. I mean, you know what I mean? If you're biting someone, you're scratching someone, you literally see the scratches on their back, on their chest. It's right there. It's black and white. It's in front of you. It's very simple. So like that, I think helps in a realistic, not that everyone should be biting everyone, but you know what I mean? To that concept of the more reality into wrestling helps you pull the audience in and be with you in the match.
Yeah, I think, speaking to your point earlier about like pandemic era Ring of Honor, for example, one of the things that I think really did that product a service was that they knew what their audience was, right? Like Ring of Honor was built on that foundation of, like pure wrestling, that in-ring athleticism, that competition between two opposing forces. And that's what they were giving, right? In wrestling, I've always found, and it's not always been the easiest process, but it's so important to know your audience, right? What I wrestle in front of a different audience every single show that I'm on, right? Whatever state that I'm in, whatever promotion I'm wrestling for, there's always going to be a different audience makeup. If you can try to figure out, what kind of audience you are going to be competing in front of and adapt your style to best meet the needs of that audience, you all automatically already set yourself up for a greater level of success. And that's one of the things that over the past couple years, since I've been working on this character, that's one of the biggest things that I've been focusing on too, is not wrestling for me, but wrestling for the people that I am in front of, the people that are paying their hard-earned money, right? Is what is going to connect with them, what is going to emotionally resonate with them, and then adapt my style to fit that audience. And one of the things I think is great about wrestling is, like a lot of people, like older wrestling, right? They pine for the way that wrestling used to be. And there are definitely some amazing things that we can look back at in wrestling and still use today. But I think one of the coolest things about wrestling today is that there is such a large variety of so many different styles, so many different types of athletes and performers. You have all these different promotions. A lot of them have this reach that promotions never had before with streaming and television, that if you are somebody who liked wrestling in the past, or even somebody who's trying to get into wrestling now, I guarantee you there is something in wrestling that you will be able to find that you will be able to make a connection with. And I think that that's one of the coolest things about the game today, is just the variety, the expansive variety that we have at our fingertips.
There's a wrestling style for any culture of person. There is a wrestling for that, basically.
Absolutely. One of the things, it's funny that like, things that stick with you in your life that like people like say to you, for example, right? Like I had a teacher in school, like a music teacher once, that told me that like music, for example, is a language that everybody speaks, right? Well, in my opinion, wrestling and what wrestling is all about, to be honest, is a language that everybody speaks, whether they know it or not.
It's a very it's a very tricky statement because it's not wrong. It just sounds like it just sounds like it is, but it's not. That's the crazy part about that. Is that they're literally, right. If someone were to give, like, knowing someone's personality, be like, nah, they're not going to like this, they're not going to like this. But, and you have everything out there, like, but they might like this, and they watch it, and they're like, well, this is actually pretty cool. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. depending on whoever that person might be, that's probably what the reaction would be.
Yeah, I think too, like it just boils it down to, like, obviously on the surface level, that statement might come across as a little bit like jarring or polarizing, because there'll be people that would hear that and be like, well, no, I don't like professional wrestling. I don't like X, Y, and Z about it. But if you really boil it down to the formula, right, or the skeleton of professional wrestling, right, that, that eternal struggle between good and evil, you find that in literally any book, any movie, any television show. That ability to draw out an emotion in you that professional wrestling has at its core. If you go by that, then yes, like there is something about professional wrestling that in theory could resonate with any person on the planet because of those simple themes, right, that are universal.
You have comedy, you have suspense, you have drama. Mm-hmm. I mean, depending on where you're at, you might have horror. There's literally everything that someone likes, like that someone is mystery. There's science fiction based. I mean, I can keep going, but I won't.
We could be here.
I did want to sidebar this and go off of what you were saying, like catering to a certain crowd. What state or what city that you go to is it the funnest to play a heel?
Is it the funnest to play a heel? Let me see. Well, truth be told, I get a lot of my bookings these days, not all of them, but most of them come from that Northeast area, because right now independent wrestling in the Northeast is just absolutely booming with all the stuff going on in Massachusetts, Maine, etc. So my answer to that would be, I think Massachusetts personally is the state that I enjoy performing in the most, whether it's babyface or heel, because I've found that the fans there are so incredibly passionate that you will not have a hard time evoking some kind of emotion from them, whether it is, disgust and hatred, or whether it's, admiration and love and affirmation. So I absolutely love working at, all those big promotions in Massachusetts. And I've, kind of carved out a spot for myself in that independent wrestling scene over the past couple of years, whether it's, Beyond, Wrestling Open, Blitzkrieg, Pro Wrestling Grind, which is kind of my home promotion now, which I'm, a big proponent of, and I think is going to be doing big things going into the near future. But that would be, I think Massachusetts in general is kind of my favorite place to really let it all hang out right now.
So I'm very jealous of that, because it comes across when I watch Beyond or Wrestling Open and whatnot, it comes across so easily that they are so passionate. I come from a passionate sports fan base. I'm a Philadelphian, so I know what passion looks like. It's just that for some reason, Philly doesn't give that type of passion all the time for wrestling. And it bothers me because I see the Bostonians and they're very passionate, and it angers me. And I'm very jealous.
I can see you getting passionate just now.
I know.
You guys in Philly, you Philly sports fans are so passionate that you guys throw batteries at Santa Claus.
That's the go-to. It's the go-to. They don't see it for what it is. To cheer someone who is in such a slump, to get him over the hump so that he is now on a streak, that's a fan base.
I'll tell you what, though, you guys have a seriously valuable opportunity coming up WrestleMania season this year, because everybody and their mom is going to be running a show or a promotion WrestleMania week. So y'all in Philly, you got your opportunity to show up and show out.
We can't wait
for all those places that are going to be, gravitating towards you guys.
All right. So I'll piggyback off it since we're already in that realm. Is there something going on? Is that where you want to be that weekend, in the Philadelphia area for that weekend? And if so, where do you want to be at?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. There's not a doubt in my mind that I want to be participating as much as possible WrestleMania week. Especially since, I'm a Jersey guy. So I've been Philadelphia adjacent my entire life, and I've been waiting for this kind of opportunity, because isn't this the first time since like WrestleMania 15?
Yeah.
25 years, baby.
Yep.
Yeah. So
we were all youngsters.
Exactly. So this is the first time, since like childhood for me that WrestleMania is going to be coming through Philadelphia and turning it into this big event. And truth be told, I have yet to, as much as I am proud of what I've accomplished so far, I have yet to be able to participate in a WrestleMania week. I've not been able to. Some of my peers have done it before me. They've had all these bookings throughout the entire week of WrestleMania, but this year rather, coming up, I want that to be my time, because Philadelphia is home to, a lot of amazing wrestling history, but also a lot of amazing wrestling moments for me as a fan and as a wrestler. So I want nothing more this year than to show up and show out and just get my piece of the pie this year for WrestleMania week. That's my goal and my focus, and I intend to do everything that I can in my power to make it a reality.
I mean, I don't know if this is like a duh type statement, like, yeah, that's known by everyone, but like it could catapult your career in like 1 week. Like, all it has to do is get a little bit of notoriety from the right person, or God forbid you go viral, because a lot of people go viral that week. There's a lot of wrestling, so it's a great time to get, so they say, noticed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's on my bucket list. So on a personal level, I don't want to check it off my list of, having these WrestleMania week moments for myself. But you're right. I mean, you never know what's going to go viral these days. Like, sometimes it's just the most random, seemingly dumb little thing that happens or that you do or say, and it goes viral, right? Or all it takes is the right promotion, putting you on their show, giving you a little bit of rub, giving you a little bit of buzz. But I'm super excited because all these places that I'm already working, like in the Northeast, I know they're all going to be flocking to the Philadelphia area, and I think too, by just being local, just being present, right, and being around, what they say, a lot of wrestling, wrestling is partly skill, but it's also who it's also right time, right place a lot of times. And I intend to be in the right place at the right time come WrestleMania week this year.
I love that.
So I do kind of want to touch on Fight Pro. The season 1 just ended. We were fortunate enough to be at the last tapings of the Multi-Man Mayhem and the season finale.
Fun fact, you don't know this, but you landed right in front of us, and I handed you a water bottle because we were all sweating. You know what's off, and you looked like you needed a water. So I'm the one who hooked you up with the water bottle. That was Brotherly Love Wrestling.
I appreciate that 100%, because in these wrestling venues, I don't have to tell you because you've experienced it. It do be getting sweaty and do be getting hot in there a lot. And sometimes you just need to cool down real quick. So I appreciate you for lending me the assist.
The best part about that was you fall out to the ring. We are at ringside, and you rest your head against my leg, and you just look up and you're like, I'm just going to be here a minute. I'm like, all right, yeah, do what you got to do. He reaches over, goes, here, you want water? You drink the water, put the cap back on, you put it back down, and you get back in the ring and wrestle. He looks over me, he goes, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this water now? I'm not going to drink his water.
It lasted the rest of the show, and I didn't throw it away until then because I didn't know if you were going to come back to it.
Hey, well, I didn't want to take, all the water that you spent your hard-earned money on. But,
no, you know what? They handed that out for free, those kind people over at Fight Pro.
Yes, yeah.
Well, if I had known that, I would have just taken the whole thing and chugged it right before I jumped back in the ring.
Yeah. Well, but anyway, about that Multi-Man Mayhem, the match you had Devontae, Vinny Pacifico. I forget the fourth participant.
It was I think his name is Miles Penn. He's like a newer kid coming up from. He actually trains at the same school that I came up through. New kid, really young, but I think he's got a bright future though.
So you guys absolutely tore it up in there, and Devontae and Vinny, both former guests of our show. So it was cool to see them. And of course, we said this to Ernie when we talked to him. the mix of a lot of younger talent that we haven't been introduced to, and being able to be mixed in with guys that we are used to seeing on the independent scene and back and forth. A lot of the talent meshes really well, makes the show really interesting, really fun to watch. You get locked in, you get introduced to new talent. And I thought Multi-Man Mayhem was really, really well done for Fight Pro. And then, of course, the season finale.
Very, very fun show.
Very fun show. And the season finale, even better, we got more into the rules, seeing the violations and stuff like that, which was a whole new world for me and Joe, because we hadn't seen it at that point yet. And then watching the season play out, and now finally getting to see the taping that we were involved in. Fight Pro is unlike anything that we have seen, and that's the main tagline. It's innovative. It's something new. And all the rules, I know some people may say, oh, well, yeah, there's too many rules. It kind of gets in the way. It doesn't. I think it plays more into the story of the match and into the story of the season. And I wanted to see what your take was on being a part of Fight Pro.
Well, for me, I mean, it was a wonderful experience, and I love Fight Pro for a couple different reasons. I mean, one, they're guys that, they're taking a chance on people that maybe haven't gotten a spotlight, right? That they've needed up to this point, right? So Fight Pro, they reached out to me like right around the time of their first taping, and they told me that they really liked what I was doing, and they really wanted to try and give me a platform as much as they possibly could to really show people what I was capable of. And I'll say too, I'm always going to be eternally grateful to anybody that's willing to take a chance on me, because I feel like, when I'm given the chance to show what I'm capable of or given that spotlight, I feel like I always should, show up and show out. And I feel like I always deliver when given the platform to do so. So Fight Pro is going to be a place that's very special in my heart, because they trusted me with that spot. Right. And I'm really grateful for them being willing to trust me, somebody that, is right now maybe unproven in some people's eyes. Right. But they believed in me. And because of that, I'll continue to believe in them. But also, I think their presentation is very unique in this current wrestling landscape. They, have a lot of people in front of the camera and behind the camera who are carrying that original spirit of Ring of Honor with them, right? So, obviously right now we know Ring of Honor is, a part of AEW. AEW has kind of put its own spin on Ring of Honor, its own coat of paint on it. But people from that original iteration, right? Like Rhett Titus and Cheeseburger and myself and LSG, everybody who was involved in Ring of Honor before the buyout, we're all carrying that original spirit of Ring of Honor with us into that presentation, right? That's where the rules come in, right? Mm-hmm. It feels very much like old school Ring of Honor with the pure rules style, the rope breaks, the violations, all those different things. And I agree with you. I think it enhances our product and our presentation, because we're really one of the only products that's doing that right now and doing it well. It's not enough just to use an idea. You have to execute it properly. And I feel like we are doing that. And the first season, right? I'm very happy that it was given the platform to be on IWTV so that more people could see it and be exposed to it. But I think that we were finding our way in season one. I am so excited to see what they've got in store for season two. After this, this first season of finding your legs, finding the formula that works, I think that it's going to come back with an even bigger punch in season two.
So here they developed characters, and they've developed a lot of them in the short season that it was. There, you got the people that I didn't know of that I've grown to not like. Dog Nation, like I never heard of them before, but they're giving these people platforms. But it's very simple. Like I know I'm not supposed to like them. They're from a different generation than me, and I know that, and they act like it. And I don't like that generation. But I mean, it's fun. It's a fun show. But what I wanted to ask is, with such a mix, like you have veterans and you have new people, is there a lot of teaching? Is this like the era of like where you're trying to actually elevate people with yourself? Like, is there a lot of people in that, like you have Cheeseburger there? I mean, there are a lot of people that know and have been around for a long time. And there's a lot of people that haven't.
Yeah, I think that one of the coolest things about the roster that we've established with Fight Pro is, we have a really strong mix of young up and coming talent, as well as the veterans who have a lot of experience and a lot of miles on them, right? So, like I said, we've got Rhett Titus, there's Delirious as well, one of my original trainers, Cheeseburger, and then the people too, the brains behind the outfit, like you were talking about Ernie, also from that original Ring of Honor mix, one of the creative talents behind the whole process. Prince Nana, also a big part of it. I've learned a lot being there. And I think that what's been really cool is I've also been given the opportunity to take what I know at the level that I'm at and to pass it down. It really does to me feel kind of like a trickle down effect where the people who are at the top of that experience ladder, right, are trickling down to me, and I'm taking what they've given me, the knowledge and the wisdom that they've bestowed upon me, and I'm trying to trickle it down to other people who are on the come up right now. So I think that that's one of the coolest things about Fight Pro that I really like is I get to learn so much, just being a sponge around all of them, but I also get to be in a position to try and help and teach some other people with what I'm capable of delivering too.
No, I mean, it makes sense. I know we thoroughly enjoyed the entire season and being a part of the last two tapings. Season 2 begins September 24th.
Yep.
Skid Row Academy.
Yep.
So that's a 4:30 showtime. So if you can, you're in the area, get tickets. You can witness it live. Not obviously on IWTV right away, but you get to see it before anyone else does. So September 24th, make sure if you can get tickets there. Is there anything coming up that you would like to talk about, promote, anything like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm going to be in September is kind of filling up, very nicely for me, October as well, but I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff up in the Northeast, in the coming months with Pro Wrestling Grind and Blitzkrieg and some of these other places. But if you're looking at me, like locally, I'll also be around the Jersey and Philadelphia area doing stuff with Fight Pro and any of these other, promotions that I haven't gotten to, reach my hand into yet. I will say as well that this year, one of the coolest things for me was being able to wrestle again in the 2300 arena for a television product. I'm not gonna say where or who it was for. It's more of like you have to try and find me on the show. It's like a very much like a Where's Waldo. I'm gonna be doing another one of those things very soon. So hopefully eventually, I'll be able to be more transparent about that and you'll actually be able to see my face. But that was a really cool experience for me too, especially since the last time I had been in 2300 arena was with Ring of Honor. And now another promotion has been kind enough to trust me with the opportunity to wrestle for them in 2300 arena. So I'm going to be back there very soon. And that's like a home for me as well. It's where I saw my first ever Ring of Honor show as a fan too. So that's just a special moment for me. As far as like where to follow me and keep updated on my wrestling journey and where I'm going to be, you can follow me on, Twitter, or I guess it's called X now, whatever it is, and Instagram at Rabid Ryan Mooney. As well, if you want to buy any merch and support me, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com and search Ryan Mooney. You'll find 2 of my shirts. I'm going to have another one going up pretty soon. But yeah, man, like this wrestling journey is always fun, wild, and chaotic. And, it's going to be a crazy ride to the top of the mountain, but I hope everybody will buckle their seatbelts in and join me on the journey. So that's kind of all I'm hoping for.
Oh yeah. Well, we hope to see you very soon. Hopefully we will be catching a couple of those Fight Pro shows, considering how local they are. We definitely got to make it out again and see you guys, because it is one hell of a show. They do a good job, and the storytelling is what really hooks us in.
Screw that. I want to see them come April.
That too. Absolutely. And we definitely hope to see you WrestleMania week somewhere in the city, somewhere even outside the city.
We could go over the bridge, I guess.
Yeah, WrestleMania week. So
let's keep our fingers crossed and manifest it, guys. So
absolutely,
let's doing that.
Yeah. So, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time talking with us, and we'll be talking to you very soon.
Guys, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, talking about wrestling and talking about life. And, let's represent Honey Badger territory wherever we go.
We are.
That's
Now
right.
we are in the territory.
That's right. Yes. All right. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be talking to you very soon. See you.